This channel and the content on it was created for adults only 18 plus. We don't promote or condone any illegal activity or the use of any illegal substance. This was created for informational and educational purpose only.
Smoking in the morning, smoking in the evening, smoking when I want to, smoking at the beach now. I'm from California, we grow it every season. Our plants we need to feed them, we grow it for a reason, because we love our homegrown. We grow our pie, we're in our garden, tending to our crop. We love our homegrown. We love our vibe. We're in our garden, smoking all the crowd. Boom, burn another zone. Get so high that we have to grow more. Boom, burn another zone.
Get some stash blend, feed my kids.
Mama? Oh, wow.
Be fucking nice.
Hi, happy
Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. I wanted to say
going?
Friday again.
I know, right?
It feels like it should be Friday.
You just say happy day.
Yes. Happy week.
Happy week.
Yeah.
How is everybody this evening?
Good.
Rushed a little bit.
Yeah, special time for a special guest. He's running a little bit late here, so we're gonna just stall for a minute until he pops in, because he was rushed today as well. So today our special guest is Jeremy Silva from Build a Soil. I'm so excited. Oh my goodness, he has taught me so much. And I know Tommy Two Beds is watching, and he had a couple of questions. Did anyone write it down? Papa, did you write it down so we can ask him? I don't think so.
No.
That's okay. We can pull it up.
He can pop it in the chat even if he wants to. If he does it right now, maybe Papa can hold on to it for a few minutes, and then he can just pop it up on the screen whenever we're ready.
When we're ready. That's a fabulous idea. So Tommy, if you could please do that. And if anybody else has any questions for Jeremy, we'll try and fit in as many as we can within the hour. And Papa will be able to bring that up and keep us on track.
Yeah.
It's
amazing how much 2 hours does.
Right.
The time, like normally we're 9 o'clock. I was like, oh, it's not gonna be that big of a deal. It'll be okay. And then like 6 o'clock, I'm like running. I'm like, I haven't eaten dinner. I'm not dressed. I'm like, oh, I better go.
I know Papa's yelling at me. You need to go get ready. I'm like washing walls. I'm spring cleaning my house. I'm like washing walls and just kind of in my own zone. And he's like, you need to go get ready now. I'm like, oh no.
Well, it's only 4 o'clock in the afternoon for you.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a random time.
Yeah, really random. It's kind of a shitty day out there today. We're really cloudy and overcast. So, it was kind of a good day to spring clean anyway.
Yeah. It just started raining about an hour ago. It rained for like 35 seconds really hard, and then it stopped.
Oh, that's fun.
That was it.
That's it.
Yeah, that was it.
All right. So like to say a quick thank you to everybody who's here today, and I believe that we do have him in the background now. So
yes, we do.
All right, let's go. This is going to be exciting.
Get your questions ready, folks.
Hi,
How's it going?
welcome.
Hello.
Happy Wednesday.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm really happy to be here today. Thanks for having me on.
We're happy that you
thank
came.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time. I know we had a little bit mix up in the times there, and you were able to still squeak us in. So thank you very much. We do appreciate that. We're super excited to have you here.
Appreciate it. I feel so funny trying to move it a little bit, but man, there's like construction at the house. My wife's out of town today. I've got the class that I mentioned after this, and so I was like, I'm going to do it, but we just got to make it fit. So really appreciate you guys moving things around just for me.
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of very excited people in the chat that are have been waiting for this. So
yes.
So yeah.
So Jeremy, let me just give ourselves a quick introduction here to you, because this is the first time we've spoken. I'm Mama Kush 420. We have beautiful Sea Bunny Grow in the corner, and we have Mr. Ganix here, and we make up the crew of Home Grow the Community. And our channel is for the community and to bring as much information to the community as we can. And we do on Friday nights, we do Grow Me Gardens. So the Gromies can come on and show us their gardens and ask us any questions. And we have,
we lost him.
He'll be back. He's probably just the connection.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm out. That's it.
I don't want to hear about Fridays.
I'm out. Don't you even go there.
Don't tell me about Fridays on Wednesdays.
I don't know what happened. My internet, I swear, my internet's good. In fact, doing construction, they just cut the line in half, and the fiber company just came to reconnect it like minutes before. And so I'm like, no, don't go.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
I might just be resetting it or something.
Right place, right time, all the time. Barely made it. So
Nice.
So, Jeremy, why don't you give yourself a quick little introduction for anybody that's not aware of who you are, which I'm thinking is probably nobody, but please go ahead anyway.
Oh my goodness, come on. So I am just another grower, and about a decade ago in my garage, I started a company called Build a Soil, and it was because the living organic soil movement was happening. Many of us were following the recipes where you used bagged potting soil and then you souped it up, and there was TLO and super soil and many other recipes. But what was clear is that was more like artisanal. It felt like you were doing something that wasn't an A and a B. And so when we started the company, it was based on the fact that we couldn't find most of the ingredients that were often discussed. And then we found through Clackamas Coot teaching us a lot about the quality of ingredients, we just learned a lot, and it became our passion. And so in sharing that, it became a business, and like I'm living my dream. And so I feel just so grateful to even be here talking about something like this as part of my living, you know? So that's me in a nutshell.
Nice. So did you grow with like bottled nutrients or salts beforehand? Like had you experienced all that before you were like, you know what, I want to go the organic living soil route?
Yes. So to be congruent, I was seeking something as far as organic growing, because although it's becoming more mainstream now, there wasn't organic produce in every grocery store. And so it was a lot smaller thing, but I grew up in Southern California. And so it was a little more relevant. And a lot of the research I did said, we don't know what a lot of these pesticide combinations will do. We're finding plastic in our body. We're finding pesticides in our body. And so I was kind of like, man, if I'm going to do something every day, I got to get it right. So I drink coffee. I drink only organic. And I'm sure there's still some problems with it. So I try to be healthy to fight anything off. And cannabis, I'm smoking it. So I want to be healthy to start with, and I don't want any of the problems. So I started looking, and man, there was nothing at the grocery store. And I even tried doing like composting in a recirculating deep water culture system. I did a lot of Lucas formula stuff, hempy buckets and soilless. And I've tried lots of methods before I settled into the organic area. And now, although I tinker, I've never had this desire to like go try a million other nutrients. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
So, like that's what a lot of us are looking for. Like, have I arrived? Is this what I'm going to do?
Oh, that's amazing. And
It
I
is.
see in the chat there, we're shouting out Clackamas Coot there. I know he
Oh,
was,
yeah.
he's a mentor of yours, and he's even passed on some genetics to you recently, and you're growing those out. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, certainly. So, when we were first behind the scenes in the forums, it seems like anywhere Coot popped up, there'd be like a wave of people and we'd all ask questions, and then somehow there'd be like a banning, and then there'd be a private subsection of a forum, and then it'd move, and then he'd be gone for 6 months at a time. And so there was always this lore of this one. And while it may not be the 35% crazy numbers we're seeing today resin railed out, the reason why it was so sought after is it wasn't very widely available. And the lore was that this was like landrace hybrid vigor cross, and that could potentially have these well-balanced, genetic that could be building block for breeding or just a good old school strain. And it was called the One. And we're releasing an article in Skunk Magazine soon, kind of paying homage to Coot. We wrote an article about him as my first education piece for Skunk. And it goes over his soil recipe, which is what most people know him for. And when we first started mixing soil on a tarp, following these recipes, you would get it shared with you, and it's a laundry list of 50 ingredients. You'd be going around to hardware stores, garden stores, online to buy every single ingredient, not knowing if you could replace one or the other, just getting exactly what it said. And his recipe was like 3 ingredients and some minerals. You're like, there's no way that'll work. It worked really well. And so then we started taking his information seriously, and his genetics, the One. It's 1983, I think, is when he crossed it, but the seeds came from probably the 70s as part of the Brotherhood of Enlightened Love, where they were importing hash and surfboards, things like this. And so during that scene in Laguna Beach, he had access to the seeds, made some crosses, and when as I've been explained, when like the group of friends broke up and went their separate ways, didn't want the lifestyle anymore, or whatever that meant, he took his plant. He said, I'll take that one. That's mine. And it was the more Thai-leaning Thai to Afghan cross. And so we've been we're starting to do some breeding with it. In the past on the YouTube series, we did do some breeding with a back cross of that, or an out crossing of it. And going forward, he sent me the cut. So we're going to start working with it. The whole goal is just to share it. And he's getting older. I'm not sure if he really wants me sharing this or not, but I just share the truth. And he confided in me recently that he had a minor stroke. And so he's doing really well. It was in his leg. It wasn't somewhere in his brain. He's got all his cognitive function, but I feel like on his heart is probably that he's getting older. It's like, let's get this cross out there. Let's just share it and not worry about it. So that's pretty cool. But he gave us so many other things, sprouted seed teas, and a lot of us learned to bake bread because of his postulations on like the microbes and how they interact and wanting to see it and learn. So there'll be a lot in that article, but it's really just like a guidepost, like he was for us, areas to look, do your own research. And many of them became rabbit holes, as we call it, for us to be like, what biochar, what ferment, what seeds?
Yeah.
I feel like you're kind of doing that now too. I feel like when you start watching some of your videos, like the other day I was watching some of your videos, and next thing you know, I'm like 15 videos in. I'm like, oh wow, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm still watching these. But
yeah, buddy.
Yeah,
he passed the torch, right? And this isn't our information. I think what's helped us is I have put into action everything that he said, and I do it every day, 24/7, 365. I've had a grow going since I started. I'm addicted to it. And I love popping seeds. I like taking clones. There's never not been a grow since I started. And so because of that, over time, I think I've been able to share my experience through trying these practices. And then people can resonate with that because it's like, well, why would I waste the last 8 months of trial and error, or 2 years or 5 years or whatever it was? And everyone's doing the same thing. So we're all just sharing the information between each other. But in the beginning, you don't know what you don't know. So you don't know who to listen to. And pretty soon when you get caught up and you know the basics, it's easy. You're like, oh, that guy's doing it right. Look at his plants. Look at that. Okay, I'll listen. And that's the power. Like I do jujitsu, and I like it because it's black and white. You know where you're at in the pecking order. And if someone says they're better, there's no ego about it. You just get to roll. And then you're like, oh, well, I'm going to listen to everything this guy says. He just whooped my ass. But in the social media realm, everybody's a black belt after their first grow, and they're sharing information just like it's a lifetime supply of it. And when you get experience, it's the opposite. I feel like I don't know shit and people shouldn't listen to me. But a lot of it works, you know, and so it may be better than who they're listening to currently. So it's like, baby
the proof is in the pudding. I mean, your grows are absolutely phenomenal. I mean, when you were like, well, I need to get a step ladder to reach that one back there, and you know, and you have to, and you're in a 10 by 10 tent, like you're doing something right.
No, it looks good, but like we sent it on this last one, maybe a little too big, and we're going water only. So like, we're going to get a big fade if we don't get in there. And because it's on YouTube, I'm like tempted to go in there and like, okay, we're going to start feeding and make it all perfect. And I'm like, no, we signed up for this. Let's just see what happens. And it's kind of scary. I feel like that's probably why a lot of people don't do like constantly updated grows. I noticed when I got in the forums, I'd say a majority, probably not the minority, the majority of grows weren't finished. And I get it, like girlfriends and life and jobs and wives and kids and everything. And sometimes it's like the grow doesn't actually finish, let alone document it. And so it's been very much like a discipline and very much a Zen thing for me to pump out YouTube videos every week. And so I'm actually grateful for that accountability between the people that watch. I can't believe it happens, you know?
I think a lot of people want to see that though. I think a lot of people want to see like what you were saying, I want to go in there and feed it or whatever. I think a lot of people want to see you not do that so they can see the results of that.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm not going to, but I guess what I'm getting is there's this desire for the public
to
make it look better than it might be and like try and fix everything. And part of the Coot article, part of the Zen philosophy that he follows, as far as many different things that he follows, but he calls it wabi-sabi. And it's like there's imperfections and embracing that, and there's balance. And so he discusses that in a writing that's part of that piece, but that's part of this too. You know, we're just trying to embrace the whole garden and not just be like, it's picture perfect every time. Now it looks pretty good in the GoPro. But like right now it's so overgrown. I know if I were to crawl under the way back, like shit.
You'll find something.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But as Ganix was saying, though, that's what we love about it is we are watching an honest grow, and you are brutally honest. Yeah. You had some seeds that you neglected one season and went away and came back, and a couple of them didn't make it. So I mean, we as the viewer appreciate that honesty.
Yeah, it sucks. You want to be 100% germination every time you bought seeds on YouTube or something, right? But I mean, we all know that's not how it usually goes every single time. Like you have a streak, but things happen.
Yes. So. Yeah, I do that. I go like 100% for like a couple runs, and then the next 3 or 4, I'm like, oh great, I got 2 seeds out of 12. Yes. But yeah, it happens.
Yep. And then you just listen, right? You listen like, is this telling me I was too busy or not paying attention, or were they just old seeds? Like the garden always is teaching us something. And for me, a lot of times I tend to procrastinate. And when you get better at something, you can kind of bend the rules and procrastinate. And like, it's always better when I'm in there and giving my effort daily instead of putting it off a few days at a time. So
yeah,
I always tell people, like, when you get too comfortable and you start cutting the corners, and then, nothing's gone wrong for so long. So you're just like, you're coasting. Everything's perfect. Yep. You don't have to worry about anything. And then like that overnight, you wake up in the morning, you go in there, check it all out, and like all hell's broken loose. So I could never get too comfortable.
That's the beautiful part of life is it's never going to let you coast for too long, for better or for worse, right? We're always like plants. We're supposed to be growing. And I feel like we can either see our problems as, woe is me, the world's always doing these things to me, or, okay, here's another lesson. Well, who will I become overcoming this one, Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Sure. You have such a zen way of living, and you had mentioned that you had come from a cul-de-sac. You were like a skateboarder kid in a cul-de-sac, and now you're a farmer living the Zen life. So how do you go from a cul-de-sac to a farm? How does that happen?
Well, the cul-de-sac was just, I was born into it, lived in Southern California, and we were always in new communities. So it was like a different school every year. And by the time I had moved out here, it was, I think, 2009. And everything that I didn't have when I was growing up was very intriguing to me. So farming, growing, any of that stuff. And of course, now I had a little more space instead of being in the cul-de-sac or in an apartment or condo or whatever. And so naturally, I think a lot of us are curious about things that we haven't gone through those experiences, but we know are rewarding. So I started growing, and a lot of it too was being out here. I didn't have all the connections. Like in SoCal, you could just go to the grocery store and be like, "Hey, bro, do you know anybody has weed?" And when I landed in Western Colorado, I was like, "What?" So in Colorado, but it wasn't the same culture, and so I really got a lot more serious into growing at that time. But really, on the farming side, it was just a passion to learn more and try and learn and eat healthy food. And my wife took it and ran with it. She does all the farming, like past everything that I've known about farming. And a lot of it is that the soil does work, but the rest is just like in a grow room: environment, process, discipline. Like,
yes, for sure.
once you get the soil okay, like really the plants want to grow. And so now it's a problem. How do you keep up with it and make money off of it, everything else? So a lot of it comes back to business. And unfortunately, most of us don't want to learn the financial skills. We don't want to keep reading, keep improving, keep listening to new stuff and expanding ourselves because it's brutal. And I don't care what your passion it is. Everything you could ever want in life is owned or controlled by someone else now. It's not just laying out there. And so you have to have some communication skills, some business skills to turn your homestead, your farm, your passion, something into livelihood. And so many of us come from that background from black market when cannabis was the passion and it was a way to make a livelihood. But the industry's kind of robbed that from a lot of people because it's not necessarily worth the same anymore. And there's a lot of crap on the market. And so it's important that we all keep getting better as a community, taking those skills to the next level and being a part of it so that it's not sold out, you know?
Exactly. Well said.
Love that.
Definitely well said.
We did have a couple of questions from the chat. They've been so pumped to be able to have an opportunity to ask these questions. So, Papa, if you can roll with a couple of these. So Dog Doctor wants to know if you'll ever move to Europe.
In another life, maybe.
He might be asking for a job. I'm not sure.
It's funny when you get older, like they say that to seek comfort or seek happiness is a lot of times the best of what you've already known instead of some new thing that you can't even picture. And I'm like, I can't even picture moving to Europe, but Hawaii is amazing. So.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wouldn't that would be amazing. That's so tropical.
Yeah.
I just want plants year round. That'd be amazing. So
that would be amazing.
All right,
So
Ganix, you
William
want to take this one?
Bunny,
Bunny, go ahead.
So William James is asking, what's the least expensive build of soil attitude?
So I wonder what he's asking by the least expensive build a soil attitude. Was it a typo or something? Because like maybe growing the least expensive way of build a soil style.
Yes.
That's what I took from that question.
Yeah, I'll interpret it that way. So
I just read like that.
There's two approaches.
Maybe amendment.
There's two approaches. One is the absolute least expensive, and the other one is the least expensive with the best result so that you don't fail and that failure becomes expensive. My go-to is either homemade soil or a bag of like 3.0 and an earth box. And when you get one earth box and you have so I vacillate between wanting to tell you to buy products because it's easy to just to say, go buy these, but you can make all these from scratch. So you don't have to buy it from us. Anywhere in the world, you can do this. The idea is a good soil, following like Clackamas Coot's recipes, something easy to access with good compost. And then when you put the good soil in the earth box, it sub-irrigates from down below. And this takes away the number one learning curve in living organic soil, and that's getting the moisture to keep the soil life active, to keep the flow of nutrients and the biology happy. And when we don't know what we don't know, it's our first go. It's like you could totally overwater it or underwater it. And this teaches you. So you get an earth box, you learn kind of how much water goes through it automatically, and you learn. But what will happen in that earth box with one bag of soil, 1 cubic foot, plus I like to use like a cup of craft blend, which is basically an all-purpose organic amendment. You could get anything that's similar, all-purpose, so not like high in one number, let's say even NPK or similar. You spread that on the top. Craft blend's a little different because it has lots of extra minerals and things that a lot of companies don't care about, but you sprinkle it on top. Then you put your own worm castings or compost on top of that. And this begins the creation of the feeder root in an earth box. And the only thing you have to do is put water down the tube. And as a grower, the investment is pretty minimal because you get to keep it afterwards and grow round after round. And It's the easiest, fastest growing system for living soil that I've ever used. So that would be my recommendation. Otherwise, the absolute cheapest would be a homemade bed of some sort, any sort of fabric pot, any sort of bed. Some people use pond liner and holes, like Rubbermaid tubs, anything you can think of. And just getting a good amount of premium soil into your grow space. That's the cheapest way. But with the best results, the earth box, I think, is going to eliminate most learning curves. So.
Yeah, those earth boxes look so fabulous. I'm so intrigued by them. They are just, the results you get from them are just absolutely killer. It's fabulous.
Yeah, they blow me away. Alan turned me on to those from Grokashi on the Probiotic Farmers Alliance back in the day. And
nice.
He was doing some really interesting things where he was putting bokashi in the top. And I remember him putting like nutrients on like a dinner plate, like a small plate, putting it underneath the mulch cover, showing the mycelium going, like breaking it down and delivering it to the soil. So I was just fascinated, and I thought, this is stupid. It's got plastic cover and I want to do cover crop, and like I'm ahead of this plastic box. But when I tried it, just like anybody that uses them, they're kind of mind blowing how easy they are to use. So that's always a great recommendation. And you can see in our current YouTube series, we have a couple different automated methods, and man, those trade grows, that is so much fun.
I was going to ask you how you're liking them.
Yeah, it's really cool. I like the sub irrigation. I like the bigger container. It's kind of what I've wanted as far as a bigger earth box. And next week we have a new product landing that will interface with our EcoWhip moisture meter and turn on and off the reservoir, so we can potentially set our own moisture curves and drybacks. And like, you know, when you're doing the same 4 times a year, 3 times a year, you're like, I want to tinker a little. You mean I could do that? Okay, around.
Yeah.
So I'm having fun with that stuff, and I like to get excited about new toys besides just new seeds. So
yeah, exactly.
So it's like so it's a fully automated system then.
Yeah,
based off of like a probe that's in the soil.
Yeah, so we have a deep moisture meter you can bury deep, and a shallow one you can bury shallow, and you can fire it different ways. But essentially, I'm probably going to play with waiting till the bottom gets dry, since it's sub-irrigated, to a certain level, and then reactivating the reservoir, just like I've been doing manually. But you can just leave the thing on. All of us, like, you could grow water only, but I also like tinkering with tons of different additives like coconut water and sprouted seed teas. And so I go back and forth between like overcomplicating it because I'm having so much freaking fun, and then doing a round where I'm like, I swear you don't need any of that stuff. All of us like to geek out. And so I don't know. Same in jiu-jitsu. People do freaking flying arm bars and stuff you don't need. You can just do a couple of basic strokes and finish somebody. So
yeah, but it's a finesse. It's you're finding what works for you, and you know what fits your lifestyle, and what, like, even in jiu-jitsu,
there's different happinesses. There's happiness. I forget where I read it. Yes, and the happiness of excellence is different than the happiness of pleasure, like smoking afterwards. But getting better at something over a long period of time is differently fulfilling. So the tinkering teaches you new things. It's fun.
Yes. I like that you brought up the overcomplicating too, because I feel like your system is, with like a lot of organic growing or living soil, you can go super, super easy and still grow really nice plants, or you can just you can put a little bit of everything in there. And like you said, you can tinker with it. You can make your own recipes. You can kind of do your own thing and make it complicated if you really want to. And you can get into your seed sprout teas and your compost teas and your all this, there's so much stuff you can go, like you were talking about the wormhole or the rabbit hole. There's so much information.
Yeah, for sure. The wormhole. Well, same with human diet, right? Like, you can find elite athletes that are vegan, elite that are carnivore, elite that are protein shake. Like, I don't know. It all works at some point when you get good at what you're good at. But a lot of us have felt drawn to these methods for whatever reason. And so it's creating a community. And I think it's worthwhile. Joseph, have you started putting your old coffee grounds in your soil yet? That's my question from 3 months ago. I started putting them in the worm bin. And I know I said I was going to
watch that episode again.
I said I put them in the soil or something because from this question. And sometimes I get really baked when I do the questions, and I don't remember what I promised I would do if I did. So but I have been putting all the coffee grounds into our worm bin, and our worm bin's firing right now. So
nice.
Yeah, I just watched that episode the other day. I just totally laughed because that was going to be one of my questions later on tonight. If we needed to.
It's a seed meal, right? I mean, it's ground up seed.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Bunny, you want to go ahead with this one? Organics?
So Adam Davidson
Sure.
is asking, what are the challenges of drying hollow stems? They don't want to snap day 14, 67 degrees, 59 to 60 RH.
Okay, so this, regardless of hollow stem, thick stem, any of that, once we get like, man, I've got the last autoflowers that I harvested, one of them in particular, really both, but they just stay greasy and wet. Like I swear, I can have it I had it in a tub. It's not even stored right and it stays wet. And so these ones were similarly wanting to hold moisture. I don't know what it is, but not every plant's the same. And there's a lot of, we're going to see much deeper levels. We all get so geeked out and a lot of us get so far down these rabbit holes with growing that people are creating like isolated drying chambers where they're staggering from 60 to 55 to 50 to 45% humidity, exact temperature changes and fluctuations and pulses. Like when you do freeze drying material, you're heating and you're doing sublimation. And so there's an article floating around where they're talking about mold growth and speeding up the process without removing the quality. So you get weird. But for me, when you start to get past 15, 16, 17 days and you're still not in a stem snap, I just start to drop the humidity a tiny bit. And so I'm like, all right, fine, 60 is too much. Let's just see if I can bring it down to 55 or 50. And then I'm not going to let it ride for a week. I'll check it tomorrow. And if I'm getting a stem snap, then what I do is I reduce volume. And I go now from a hanging open air, finally got a stem snap, but now I'm risking being at too low of a humidity for a while. I then tub it down and put the lid on. And then I'm able to preserve that stem snap without a quick dry down afterwards. And then you can go process it and trim it. But it's really about staggering it slowly if you're not in that sweet spot. And then after you've hit there, having a plan to get it fully in the jar. And if not, maintain that environment. And so it used to be like paper bags, you roll them down, stacked neatly together. And so at some point, when you go from the whole plant hang down to deep branched, individual stacked, shallow in a tub, whatever you do, it starts to reduce the amount of air around it that's going to cause that oxidization. We don't want the air movement anymore. And so those are the things that'll help, but you don't want to do it too early if you're still wet. So let's drop the humidity a little bit until we get that snap, at least on the smaller stuff. It doesn't have to be perfect. You'll get better as you go, right? So I feel like I'd rather err on the side of caution of being slightly dry. Even though I like it moisture, I feel like it's pretty easy to rehydrate, and it sucks if you get bud rot. So especially buds, right? If you're new to this, break up your biggest buds, even though they're trophies. I can't tell you how many people have tried to share a huge nug, and I'm like, yeah, open it and
take a picture and then break it up.
Yeah.
So we did have a few more questions here. So Green Plant Face says, Jeremy, what is your favorite disc golf course?
Good question. So we're thinking about getting some Build-A-Soil glitches made. It's like a new disc that everybody's using. I'm having a ton of fun with. I think it'd be rad. But my favorite course is going to different ones, I think, because I get tired of the same one over and over. And we're really blessed here on the Western Slope. We've got Montrose, which is an unbelievable course. They've moved it quite a bit with construction and stuff, but it's beautiful. And then there's Olathe, and there's two in Delta. And there's one in, several in Grand Junction. There's one in Ridgeway, and those were all right near me. And so the one in Ridgeway is one of the most beautiful courses I've ever seen. And the weather, when it gets hot in summer, that's my go-to because it's really cool and it's right under the beautiful mountains and the trees. But then when the weather's really good right now, I like going to Montrose or the Delta because there's two in Delta. One is a park, and it's like on green grass, and it is so fun for a shorter course. And they've got one that's like a huge, long, full-size course. I think if I really had to pick one though, that I personally go the most often, which is probably indicator of my most convenient favorite, is Montrose. So.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Danix, you want to take this one?
Oh. Gone.
Okay.
Nope.
Lindsay says, what's your opinion on using RO when the alternative is softened water?
You know, softened water is one of those weird terms that you'll be like, oh, softened water, it's got this special minerals added. And then somebody's like, no, soft water is RO. You're like, wait, what are we talking about? So I would just want to make sure with your water provider, you know what they're providing as soft water. Reverse osmosis is referred to sometimes as soft water. I've known it to be like in the hotels where they remineralize it and make it feel so soft. And I really don't know the answer to that question with that type of remineralized water, because I'd have to look at what was causing that, what were they adding. Magnesium can kind of tighten up soil. My typical conversation when it comes to water quality is like, are you using tap water? Can you filter it? And that's usually fine. But if it is a well, or if your tap water is known to be very, very like just problematic from times, then sending it off a water analysis to Logan Labs will tell you what the problem is. And the main reason why is just there can be stuff that causes high pH that acid won't fix, like sodium and other things that you just have to know about. But when it comes to RO or softened, I know more about RO. It just has nothing in it, and I'm not scared to use it. Like there's a big conversation out there about ROs like dead water. It's like nature likes balance, so having no minerals, it can kind of leach and take. But I feel like when it hits the buffer of a living soil, it's just going to be water. It's going to be improved from all the mineral and everything in there. We're not flooding it through there, not taking from.
Yeah.
It's wasteful to make, and it's hella slow. So like if you have a choice, just filtering your water and using a hose with a pump filter or something, like it's way more enjoyable than it is to try and fill up RO and flood the res or keep up or whatever. And so I think that's more my sentiment on why I don't like RO. I mean, half it goes down the drain most of the time.
Very true.
I like,
And it is
yeah, it's
slow.
like a 2 to 1, I think, for RO. I heard like
There's
for
different
every 1
ratios,
gallon.
right, depending on your setup. And so like with a faster flow, you can have a little more waste. With a slower flow, a little less waste. And time is money. So a lot of times you forget, and then you're doing the most wasteful mode, so to speak. It depends on the type. But sometimes you have to, right? If you're getting water and it's full of sodium, like RO, you're going to have to. You're going to ruin your grow, bang your head in the wall.
Yeah.
I see this. It says, I hear a rumor the next crop culture box will include BAS products. Yeah, so it's really cool to see businesses develop from within the community, and then for it to be my dream and see other people kind of taking and doing something with their passion. My favorite thing to see. And so I was just so stoked to be, part of it kind of from the beginning and communication with him. I felt honored when he wanted to include Build a Soil as part of a box. And so we're running with it, and he's doing a great job. A lot of times I'm not as well organized. That's why I have a whole team around me. And he's been super good at emailing my manager, Dan, and me, and making sure that he's going to crush it, planned well ahead of time. Yeah. When I see people with that much pre-planning, I'm like, damn, dude.
He's a super cool dude too. Actually, I've seen him on a few interviews actually with Alcan and Sewer that asked that.
Yeah.
I've seen him on his show before, and he's super knowledgeable, super nice guy, and yeah, he's crushing it right now. So it's awesome.
Oh, that's so exciting.
And, and he was in the chat a few minutes ago as well.
Oh, is he? Oh, nice. Yeah. Maybe he'll want to come on the show one time and talk about that when it's ready to launch.
For any of you that are watching it, we didn't have a special relationship before. He just was lit up with passion, did something he wanted. And so it doesn't matter how saturated you think the market is in any of your hobbies. Don't just be the guy that starts his business day one of finding a hobby, but when you get deep and you do find ways to fill a void or solve a problem and help other people that you're excited about, there's plenty of room for everybody. It's pretty cool. So
yeah, baby. Yeah.
Papa Kush.
I love seeing different companies and different people doing these collabs, just coming together with two totally different products and just hey, what can we do with this? Because he does a lot of seeds and stuff like that too. So it's
the community's getting bigger. The more we keep talking, the bigger the community's getting.
Yep, I agree.
Bunny, you want to take this one? Oh, Ganix?
My turn, assholes.
So, Jeremy, are you a blue mats lover now? That is by Green Shed Garden.
Yes, I'm still torn because they still are the same as they were in my heart before, that you got to want to tinker a little. Even to pre-dial this and all the settings, an earth box or a tray to grow is a lot more simple. And sometimes that's boring as fuck for a lot of people. They're like, no way, I want to dial my blue mat into my system and I want to know it's going to work. And so I just think there's types of growers that are going to always gravitate towards the blue mat and some that aren't, and that's okay. We should embrace it. They've gone up a notch or two in my book for sure. I'm having really good results with them. I really like the fact that they read the individual container and do it all, and it seems really intelligent with the tension. I don't like, in the back of my mind, the fear of a meter not working or something or whatever's there, right? But that's with anything that you systematize. And so I do really like them. My only wish is that I could data log the moisture from the device somehow and like know when it's watering and just geek out on it. But they freaking crush. They work really well.
But that's kind of what you were talking about with your meter that you were talking
yes,
about.
but each
connect them?
problem has a different solution. And so some commercial grows might love blue mats, some might not. Some home growers like depending on their setup and everything else, like there's not a one size fits all. As much as I want there to be, as much as I just want to say every single person should do it this way. Yeah. As I get better at this, it's clear that's not the case, especially when like you might be renting and not want to have a 4x4 bed like I think is awesome. So that's why I do small container grows. And so same with irrigation. There's differences for every style. But to be clear, I freaking love the blue mats. And these 15 gallons, while I overshot it, and we're probably going to have a pretty big fade on it, like fucking massively stacked for a 15 gallon all blue mat.
Oh my goodness.
Is that what you're running right now? The blue mats, Mama?
Yeah, so half the 10x10 is blue mat. So there's a 4x4 bed on the blue tape, the blue soak. And then the other quadrant is in 2 15 gallons, and it's filled the full 5x5 area. And that's on a 10-inch drip ring on that system. And then the other half is earth boxes and tray to grows. And so we kind of complicate our 10x10 by doing many methods, but I think it teaches more at one time than it does doing the whole tent one way. So
it's true though. It really keeps you interesting because you're learning from each, as a viewer, you're learning from each quadrant that you're running. You'll say a little tip here, a little tip there, because everything's just a little bit different. So it makes it a real pleasure to watch because we're always learning something. And I rewatch and I'm like, I can't get enough information. And not all of it sticks the first time. So I got to keep going over and over again.
No, that's rad because same thing. I kind of over relate to jiu-jitsu, but it just means a lot to me. Like you go there and literally the black belts that are winning are using fundamental day one shit that was boring, but they learned really, really good, like intuitively subconscious level good. And so I'm going to be going over these basics over and over because there's no script. We don't pre-plan. We just turn the camera on. And so then I'm saying the same message, every different angle, every different way, long, short, medium, so that someone that needs to hear it that day, that might be the next step for them. We're all in a different spot, right? So I don't have just one jiu-jitsu coach like I do locally, and he's able to really help me, but I'm looking up every YouTube video for every spot for where I'm stuck currently. That's different than every bit of information all at once. And then our customer service team, like you got to understand, it's very difficult to have enough people to answer phones, afford to pay them well to make a living, and have them be actually knowledgeable to grow a plant. So we're blessed to have a good team, but we can't just hire new people overnight. So the videos really, really, really support our customer service system so they don't have to answer every single question. I can help, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
How long have you been doing?
Tommy Two Beds wanted to know if you were hiring. That was one of his questions previously.
So we do have a graphic design job that we're looking for right now. We do want somebody local. It's not a remote position. So that's something that's available. And if you call the shop, you can talk about that. The next thing we're going to do is put apply for Build a Soil on our website so that we can start seeing who does want to work here instead of just when we put an ad out. And that will be really cool for us. But things are shifting all the time. So it's possible. But right now we've got a core team that's really solid and there's not an abundance of openings. There's only like 1 or 2. So.
Oh, there you go, Tommy. We asked him for you.
He took that question serious. How long have you been doing jiu-jitsu for?
5 years or so.
Nice.
That's cool.
Sorry, I saw somebody that I know. I saw Mr. Cannabis Luke. He's a big Build a Soil customer and fan, and he's has to help other people too. And so I saw his name. I was like,
he's big in the community for sure.
Huge in the community, huge supporter. Do you add ferments to your compost tea, or is it a wasted step?
Oh man, we can spend all day on this. So short answer is at the beginning, I was like, why would you ever do that? It's an aerobic tea. Why would you put something anaerobic with aerobic? But then, The owner of Terraganics at the time, long story, but Eric Lancaster, awesome guy. He would always recommend just right when you're done brewing, add your ferment. Then you get the best of both worlds. And the more I learn about nature, I feel like everything is everywhere. And then the environment does the selection. So it makes a lot of sense to me to brew up something that is a good, well-rounded tea, at least in our best interest, and then add in some sort of ferment and say, all right, whatever this soil needs, let's rock it. It'll push those microbes into the benefit of that community with the roots. But then there's other things. It's not just about solubilizing nutrients, and I used to think that, but the more I see these things happening and the feeder roots eating up the mulch layer, I think these plants literally leverage microbes, use them inside they're inside the system, inside the trichomes, inside the leaf, inside the roots, and they probably eat them, digest them, enslave them, everything you can think of to do more than just drink water-soluble slurp. And that has me believing that adding lots of diversity all the time doesn't work. But when I do a water-only run, it blows my mind at how well that works. So the time the ferments and the teas make the most difference to me is when you've overgrown your container or you need a little bit of help limiting our ecosystem. I'm not just tapped into the earth with the abundance of the sun. And so all of these become tools. And if I needed to do it, like if I jumped in the tent right now, we're starting to get a little early fade, and I started doing compost teas with ferments, it would make a huge difference. So
Nice.
I'm just absorbing all of your knowledge every time you speak.
Well, notice it's a trend. We think we have the exact answer when we try something new, and then later, like, it all works. You can do fermented. Yeah. There's huge arguments here. Compost tea was like years of arguing, and now everybody just agrees, whatever. We don't need it, or we do. Like, it's crazy how it comes and goes. But for a while, it was exact dissolved oxygen levels and certain inputs, and then Elaine Ingham's crowd versus Tim Wilson saying molasses is okay, and she said it's not okay. And then you'd be like, well, fermentation, that's terrible. And then you realize fermentation doesn't kill plants, it boosts them. So how could all this be wrong? People do extracts, and at the end of the day, it all works. And so whatever is best for you, just learn how to do that one right. And starting with good inputs really is the core. And I think that's why Build a Soil has done pretty well is our compost, it's good compost, and our amendments are good amendments. And so when you start with good inputs, you get good results, and then you can tinker and learn all these lessons.
And it's true though, stink in, stink out.
Yes,
you know, so if it's stinky, it's okay. You're going to get it.
It's hard to ignore that a greater part of developing nations and peasant farming that's gone on for who knows how long, but currently saying we don't want your free fertilizer and your pesticides, and we've seen it ruin our families, and we're taking it back. They're fermenting manure and fermenting what they have access to with micronutrients and other things, and they're coming up with things that work. And a lot of it is through this power of biology. So it's undeniable. And when it became from like a hobby, like, ooh, maybe this is like I'm playing scientist versus holy shit, entire nations are doing this and civilizations because it's reclaiming something that does work. It's not just bullshit. And that's where it's really powerful, because it's not about some perfect method. As far as wabi-sabi too, it's like there's imperfections in farming. It's fine. Are you eating
wabi-sabi?
Do it, you know? So
now, is there a difference between peach and pumpkin? That was one of the questions between the ferments was peach and pumpkin. Is there a difference?
Oh, I don't know. I could sit here and postulate all day, right? There's for sure differences, and diversity is something a lot of us cling to when we don't have exact answers. And I'll explain that. In my opinion, there's a book by Nassim Taleb. I've talked about it a few times. It's called Anti-Fragile. And he has to explain an entire philosophy, because anti-fragile is not just strong. It's actually getting better when shit gets hard. And nature's that way because of its fragility. So if we didn't die, if we lived forever, there'd be no improvement to our genetic pool. So by us all being slightly fragile collectively, nature is anti-fragile and always improves. And so tying it all the way back into trying to be perfect or whatever, right? It's not that way. And so that's part of the strength there. Does that make sense? Kind of relay back to the point before they get too far away, you know?
Makes sense. Jeremy, can you recommend affordable RO system for an apartment grower?
So in an apartment, you should just be able to filter your water. RO is going to be for your humidification system. And the main reason is when you only need it for the humidifier, you can use a very small amount of RO. You might be able to just pick it up at the grocery store in a jug, or you can definitely use an RO filter. It's more effective as far as cost. And then you can use it, and the humidification will create, like where it's dry here in Colorado, we have to add humidity. If you don't use good 0 part per million water, it'll just put white like mineral on things. But when it comes to the soil, if you live in an apartment, you should just be able to do a filter. We have like a sink top filter, usually at the health food store near you. Buy something cost effective, like a 10-stage filter on Amazon. Those things work pretty well, and you can drink the water. You can use it for your plant, so it's multi-purpose. But if you've got to go RO, I mean, they just come from China. Like literally pick one that fits your space that you like the design of for the countertop or for just bolted to the wall, and go for it. I think they're pretty, in my experience, on a small scale, they pretty much do the job they're supposed to do.
Yeah, I think you can get them for like a couple $100 on Amazon now.
Oh, you can spend $50 or something for a little while.
Yeah,
you can definitely get. I think for a few $100, you can get like a Revolution 1000, and it does 1,000 gallons per day or per hour or whatever. They have different ratings, but when speed's not that important, you can just turn it on to a reservoir with a float valve or collect a little bit at a time. You don't have to spend a ton of money. What kind of filter would you suggest? I'm reading them now. Filter-wise, I mentioned just like a 10-stage filter. I'm using a tall boy for the 10 by 10. I'm sorry, a big boy. The reason I did the big boy is that provides enough flow for my hose to have pressure. And with everything I've got going on, I don't have as much time. And that really does help when I need it faster. Otherwise, the tall boy is fine. It's a little slower. And then through the conglomeration of the industry and kind of like, basically, a lot of us complained about it. There was nothing we can do, right? It was Monsanto and Roundup and a lot of these subsidiaries buying a lot of the grow stores and vertical integration over the last 5 years. And a lot of these like aftermarket products that were being imported either weren't up to par or just conglomerated. And so a lot of the brands went away. But realistically, just go get a decent filter. And I usually just use one that's good for human health, like a 10-stage, and then it'll be perfect for the plants.
Nice.
Also,
So going back,
particular, you can shop for a filter that at least gets that out. You can look up at your local municipality where you live and look up the water testing and see if like there's a known problem with your water. That might be a free place to start.
Nice. I think you can actually here anyways in Canada, you can go to Home Depot and buy the water test kits. And then I think you take that into your city and they test it for you.
Yep. And then for gardening specific, there's some special things that Logan Labs can kind of tell you about your water. But a lot of times you just need to know, is there a major problem or not? You don't need to be all like perfect.
Yeah.
No, that's funny. This is a good question. You guys want to ask it? I like my eyes go to it. I'm like, I'll read it.
Have you ever tried aquaponics?
So no. You can look. We did a tour of the local mushroom farm, and they did aquaponics as well. Part of what I do with Build a Soil is not really to please everyone. It's just to do what I think is good for my lifestyle. And I tend to follow a lot of trends for how I eat, and I do not eat any farmed fish. I'm a huge opponent of it. I don't believe it's good. The farmed salmon is just atrocious. If you look up videos on it, they're supposed to be wild. And I think people think a farm is like in a pool or something, but it's in the ocean with nets, and they're feeding them like GMO. Yeah, they get sea lice. They're living in their own excrement. And even if we could say, you know what, fuck the fish, it's fine, it's really nutritious or something, the nutrition's declined, it's GMO fed, and it's like eating it, it's not as healthy. And so because that correlates to how I buy food for myself and I prefer wild caught, I end up not being like passionate enough to learn how to keep fish as part of aquaponics. And then I learned a lot of the aquaponics farms are feeding their fish because they're like fish in a barrel almost. Oftentimes not like there are aquaponics people that do an amazing job by their fish. So don't let me just say that completely, but the majority is like you picture fish in a blue barrel. They're fed almost like dog kibble, something basic. And then my mind, I'm thinking, whatever they're feeding the fish, that's what I'm feeding my plants. Why am I eating the go-between for my current situation? We don't live on the moon yet. I don't live in an area where I can't just go fish. And so that's it. But I could see myself, if it weren't that way, geeking out just because it sounds fun to create like a full ecosystem. Just it's not my cup of tea. So
Well, we're talking about fish, so Organics knows that I'm going on this. So out here we have beautiful trout that comes in, and the water's rising, and we have fresh trout right off our dock and into the frying pan. So we go pretty hard on the fish in the summer. Yeah, it's right off there.
Oh yeah,
There we go.
awesome. Yeah, and so to me that's
but-
great. And I eat
I've been-
simple foods like that, but wild caught fish is so good for you. Like,
Yeah. I've been using the lake water actually to do my outdoor grow. I walk down and I take my little bucket and I fill it up and I walk out and every once in a while I catch a little minnow by accident, so I got to carry it and just stop it back into the. Oh, Papa, don't!
there's a minnow. Just kidding.
Oh, just Jeremy, I'm sorry. Papa Kush is my husband.
I love it.
And he,
Good.
It's because we haven't tonight. For sure.
goodness, I'm sorry.
So going back to Build a Soil, for those who don't know, where can they purchase?
So buildasoil.com, and the other way is to go to your local shop. A lot of times you'll find some product there, and if not, you can ask them. I do really feel like as these grow stores get a little living soil area, they attract a new set of foot traffic that might just go online. But it helps both of us because, our soil, it's super expensive online because we build in free shipping. And we've been able to do that by negotiating a flat rate with the carrier. And it sucks because it's perceived as a high price, but it's the only way we can make it win to Alaska, to Hawaii, to everywhere for the same price, where sometimes it would be double that price. And so we just kind of bit the bullet and we did it, and we lose sometimes and we win sometimes, and it makes it work for everybody the same price. But at your grow store, they should be able to hook it up if you buy more bags, and they handle a little bit of the freight. And then it creates a little bit of better relationship. And I really think community is important. So I'd love it if you checked out your grow store. That one's on cheese. That guy's talking there. Oh man, I hate it when I learn something. Anyways, he was talking about all of the cheese in the United States. A lot of it that we get is made from a rennet that is made through a genetically modified process that they don't have to disclose. Which I was like, what?
What? What is that?
That's crazy.
So yeah, buildasoil.com, your local grow store. Those are the two best places. And then YouTube and Instagram are really where social media, that's where you can follow us. YouTube's a little more long form. We do education through a whole grow series. Instagram is just random posts of the grow or what's going on with Build a Soil.
And
Nice.
do you also ship to Canada?
Yes. So it's a challenge. I'm happy to see a lot of good Canadian companies that are there's living soil companies in Canada now. So support those people. And there's nothing magic about Build a Soil. I believe we're great, right? But a lot of the magic we do is just us getting better in process and buying and keeping consistency and testing and all these things. But when you find a young startup company that is a grower, by a grower that knows what the hell they're doing, and they're buying good products, it's just as good as us. It's organics. There's nothing super special. But for those that find a few products that are lighter weight, that may make sense, we have a process through Border Buddy that allows us to leverage a law that allows you to import through an importer from us, as opposed to us having to classify every single good. And it works, but it's a little more expensive to ship. So check it out. You can add it to your cart and see if it works.
Beautiful.
Fabulous. Oh, that is amazing.
Beautiful.
Jeremy, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come in and educate us.
Yes.
You're just so much knowledge in that brain of yours. I feel like we just scratched the surface there.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, I feel like we could have an episode 2 and 3 and maybe 4 with you.
25 and
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. But we know we're coming up to
Well,
the
behind
hour.
the scenes, you don't know this, but a lot of times what I do, it's the stars align. But behind the scenes, I've been kind of ignoring most requests because I've been very busy lately. And so I think it was kind of kismet that somehow you got on the schedule, and I'm here today, and I'm having a blast. So thank you
Nice.
for having me here.
Anytime. Always well.
Papa Kush. Well, we really do appreciate your time. And I know you've got a jiu-jitsu class that you need to get ready for. We've been talking about it. And I'm not jiu-jitsu, but I've done taekwondo. So I understand a little bit of the discipline and that sort of thing. And I know Bunny has had a couple of experiences as well. So I feel we could have another little chit chat about just martial arts.
Anytime.
Well, thank you so much, and I wish you well. And from the home growers, from this community, we thank you from the bottom of our heart for all the knowledge that you have spread throughout the community. And Clackamas Coot.
And you're welcome.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, and thank you likewise. Appreciate having me on. Have a great night, guys. Bye, everybody.
All right, happy growing. Oh my goodness.
That was so much fun.
That was cool.
I was like watching the clock. I'm like, hard stop. We have a hard stop time. We can't.
Yeah.
I understand when you've made that commitment and you're ready to go. You don't you cannot be late to a martial arts class. You cannot.
Well, it's
you're looking at 25 extra push-ups.
But it's like it becomes not work, but it becomes like in your mind, it's like work. You got to be there on time. I'm disciplined. It's all part of it, right?
Yep.
So
absolutely. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with discipline. You know, people take the word discipline to all these other different meanings.
Self-discipline.
And it's structure. Yeah. Everybody needs structure in their lives. And sometimes it could be making your bed every day. It's a discipline, you know, it's structure, right? It's, you know, everybody's at a different place in their lives and, you know, everybody needs a little bit of discipline. So
it's the foundation.
Oh boy. I can't believe this just happened. Thank you, Jeremy. Oh my goodness.
Yes, and thank you to everyone for joining us at an earlier time today. We know it may have thrown off some people, but we're glad that you guys were all able to make it here.
Yes, and please tell all your friends about this amazing conversation we just had. We have hit 1.1 thousand YouTube subscribers. We are over the moon. We have been here since January. Like, this is amazing, you guys. Like, please tell your friends that we're here. Rewatch. Put some likes. Put some thumbs up in the comments. It all is. Papa.
And don't forget to show up on Friday night for Growing Gardens because we want to see what you grow. What
you have growing on. Tommy Two Buds, I want to see that build a soil cabinet. I want to see all your goods.
Yep.
All right. All right, everybody. Let's happy growing, and we'll see you Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern time.
Normal time.
Grow Me Gardens.
Yeah.
Smoking in the morning, smoking in the evening, smoking when I want to, smoking at the beach now. I'm from California, we grow it every season. Our plants we need to feed them, we grow it for a reason, because we love our home.